When Sam was 22, he attended a Halloween party at his former best friend Mark's house. Mark had a flair for the dramatic, often transforming his home into a haunted spectacle filled with chilling props and eerie decorations. Every year, while his parents flew to New York for their own festivities, Mark would throw an unforgettable bash. The atmosphere was electric, filled with laughter, animated costumes, and the rich aroma of pumpkin spice wafting through the air. But this particular Halloween in 2013 would take a dark turn, one that haunted Sam for years to come. As the party raged on, Sam, Mark, and their friends, Liam, Jake, and Q, found themselves upstairs in Mark's room, passing around a bong. The chatter was loud, the music pulsing through the walls, creating an infectious vibe. Sam could feel the high enveloping him, lightening the weight of his worries. They shared stories of their childhood Halloween adventures, reminiscing about the thrill of trick-or-treating and the excitement of costumes. Just as the laughter reached a fever pitch, they heard two loud bangs echo from downstairs. Panic washed over Mark as he bolted to the door, his carefree demeanor vanishing. "What was that?" Sam asked, his heart racing. Mark's face was pale, eyes wide with fear. "Hide now!" he commanded, urgency lacing his voice. Without a second thought, Sam watched as Mark squeezed into the closet with Liam, while Sam crouched beneath the bed with Q. Vinny took cover in a storage box nearby, his breath hitching in his throat as he tried to remain silent. The music from downstairs abruptly stopped, replaced by a cacophony of shouting and chaos. Sam's mind raced as he exchanged panicked glances with Q, who clutched Sam's arm tightly. Then came a deafening silence, followed by the sharp report of gunfire. Sam clamped a hand over his mouth, suppressing a gasp as he watched black boots move toward the closet, their owner lingering near the door. Mark's pleas for mercy echoed through the room, chilling Sam to the bone. "Please, I don't have any money." Mark's voice cracked, desperation clawing at him. The intruder's response was muffled, but Sam could sense the menace in it. The door creaked as the figure stepped closer. Sam felt the blood drain from his face as he realized that they were not just after valuables. They were there for something more sinister. When the intruders finally left, Mark returned to the room, his eyes wide with horror, his breath coming in shaky gasps. "They're gone," he whispered, urgency thick in his voice. "We need to get out of here." It wasn't until Sam stepped downstairs that he truly understood the nightmare. The once vibrant atmosphere of the party had transformed into a scene of horror. Two of their friends, Jen and Robbie, lay lifeless on the floor, surrounded by broken glass and scattered candy. The festive decorations hung eerily in contrast to the grim reality. The police arrived soon after, their flashing lights casting sinister shadows on the walls. They seemed more focused on the masked intruders than the smell of weed that hung in the air. Mark revealed there were 4 attackers, demanding $100,000, and when he couldn't comply, they had taken whatever they could find. The experience pushed Mark into a dark spiral of depression, leading him to drugs and ultimately to a heroin overdose just a year later. The loss of his friends and the weight of survivor's guilt became a heavy burden for Sam, one that followed him long after that Halloween. Fast forward to Sam's first Halloween living alone in a small corner house in a quiet neighborhood. It was 11 p.m. when he heard a series of knocks at his front door. Annoyed, he assumed it was trick-or-treaters playing a prank. He glanced at the clock, frowning at the late hour. "Come on, guys," he muttered to himself. But when the knocking escalated to pounding, he sprang up to confront the culprits, only to find the porch empty, the porch light flickering ominously. He locked the door, convinced it was just kids being mischievous. But the unease settled deep in his gut. Then he heard it again, this time at his bedroom door. Heart racing, he looked for something to defend himself with, realizing these weren't just kids. In a moment of desperation, he turned on his speaker system, playing a realistic gunshot sound effect. "That was a warning shot. Leave now," he yelled, praying it would scare them away. It worked. The footsteps retreated, and after calling the police, Sam felt a wave of relief wash over him. The operator assured him that they would send an officer to investigate. But as he paced around the house, each creak of the floorboards made him jump. Shadows danced along the walls, reminding him of that fateful Halloween night. Still, Halloween had transformed into a night of fear, reminiscent of the tragedy he had endured years before. Reflecting on his childhood, Sam remembered how he had once trick-or-treated with friends. One Halloween, they encountered a man wearing a mask who seemed to follow them from house to house, lingering at the edges of their vision. They had brushed it off as a prank until a family friend reported seeing the same man hiding behind a tree, beckoning children over with a sinister grin. That night, Sam's younger sister Jamie had been shaken by a different scare. A boy named Randy had sneaked into her room, mistaking her for a friend. Their parents were horrified when they learned what had happened. They assured Jamie that she was safe, checking the closet and the rest of the house. But she had still felt uneasy. Sam had comforted her, telling her it was just a silly mistake. But deep down, he knew that some things couldn't be explained away. The next morning, as Jamie went downstairs, she noticed something odd. Her backpack, which she was sure she had left in her room, was sitting on the kitchen table, the zipper slightly open. Sam could see that something was amiss, even as Jamie dismissed it as nothing. "Maybe I just forgot I brought it down," she said. But Sam couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been watching them, even in their own home. As they settled into their new home, the eeriness of the previous night lingered, reminding Sam of the shadows of Halloween. He recalled a time at a haunted house with friends, where they had encountered a masked figure, only to later learn that the attraction had closed due to unforeseen circumstances. They had shared a good laugh then, but now the laughter felt hollow. On Halloween night, the memories flooded back as Sam prepared for trick-or-treaters. He decorated his front porch with cobwebs and glowing pumpkins, but the joy of the season felt overshadowed by his past. As the sun set and darkness enveloped the neighborhood, he heard laughter echoing through the streets, mingling with the sounds of children excitedly shouting, "Trick or treat?" But as he handed out candy, his thoughts drifted back to Mark and the night that changed everything. The weight of their lost friends felt heavier than the sugary bags being handed out. He glanced at his phone, half expecting a message from Mark, but there was nothing, just silence. As the clock ticked toward midnight, the doorbell rang again, interrupting his reverie. When he opened the door, he was met with a group of costumed kids. "Trick or treat!" they shouted in unison, their bright faces lit by the glow of the jack-o'-lanterns. Sam smiled, momentarily shaking off the shadows that loomed in his mind. As he handed out candy, the unease returned, creeping in like fog. The laughter of children felt distant, and Sam found himself hyper-aware of every sound. The rustle of leaves, the distant bark of a dog, and the soft whispers of the night. Just as he closed the door, a loud knock rattled the frame. Heart racing, he opened it to find no one there. Confused, he stepped outside, scanning the street. The laughter had faded, leaving behind an eerie stillness. "Come on, get a grip," he muttered to himself, stepping back inside. He bolted the door, his hands trembling as he locked it. He could hear whispers now, soft and elusive, echoing in his mind. Memories of Mark's panic and the chaos of that night blended with his present fear. The night dragged on, each creak of the house becoming more pronounced. Finally, he decided to call it a night. As he headed to bed, he glanced at the clock, almost 2 a.m. He slid under the covers, hoping sleep would bring him peace. But as he lay there, he couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister lurked outside, watching and waiting. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. Heart pounding, he opened it, his breath hitching as he read the chilling words, "I see you." Sam bolted upright, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Was it a prank? A threat? He glanced at the windows, feeling exposed. The shadows outside danced, twisting in the moonlight, and the memories of that fateful night flooded back. He realized that Halloween had transformed into a night of confrontation, not just with external fears, but with the shadows of his past. He quickly dialed 911, his hands shaking as he whispered the situation to the operator. The line crackled and he strained to hear the reassurances. "Help is on the way," the operator said, but the voice felt distant, almost lost in the growing silence of the night. Every second felt like an eternity as he waited, hyper-aware of every noise, every shadow that flickered beyond his windows. The minutes crawled by, stretching into an agonizing wait that felt all too familiar. He could hear the sirens in the distance, a haunting reminder of the past, echoing the tragedy that had stolen so much from him. and as the clock ticked toward 3, he vowed to keep a watchful eye, ensuring that they remained safe from whatever shadows lay in wait, determined to confront the darkness that had haunted him for too long. This Halloween would not claim more victims. This time, he would fight back against the shadows, reclaiming the night that had taken so much from him.